everyone. Welcome to our second episode of our podcast, Behind the Scenes, where we look basically with our team behind developing the fan game project Eden's Garden. I'm Ch0, the technical producer of this project, and I will be moderating once again a group of talented panelists that we have here today. And I'm very excited to talk to you guys, especially about the background of voice acting and basically also voice-overing the entire project itself. Joining us today are Fire, who is one of our writers of the Project Eden's Garden team, Starlight, who is our VO lead and another writer. Then we have Diana, Venetia's voice actor, Small Plain Texas, aka Snowy Snowish, and as well as Venona's voice actor, aka Brooke. And hey guys, thank you so much for coming and taking the time. I'm very excited to talk with all of you, and I'm very proud that we have such a big cast coming here up, featuring on the second episode. And so let's just start off by just basic introductions. In terms of what you guys do for the project, and generally a quick info about you guys. Fire, why don't you start first?
Okay, I'm Fire. I write for this project. That's essentially it.
Awesome. That's so detailed, and I love that, how you're detailed out with your answer. That's our Fire we know.
Yeah, no, I do a lot of writing in my spare time. I also write PEG, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much for that detailed answer. I'm sorry, I'm not trolling. It's truly an honor to have you here on the podcast.
Of course.
And next up, we have Starlight, our VO lead. Starlight, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Starlight. In the credits, I'm also known as Anthony Clement. I am a writer for the video game, and I'm also a VO lead. My tasks include writing scripts, developing characters, writing plots, and also managing our amazing cast of 17 voice actors, and making sure it all sounds very good, because our actors are very good, and I want the best for them.
Perfect. And next up, we have one of our voice actors featuring doing the premiere basically here with our podcast scene. We have Snowy Snowish. Snowy, thank you so much for coming.
Hello.
Can you also please introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Snow, or Snowy Snowish, the voice behind the lovely Diana Venecia. I began voice acting in 2013, but I've only been at it professionally for a few years now. I graduated from professional training by a phenomenal coach about a year ago, and I got my Dutch demo produced live in a studio. I'm also a singer, a VTuber, and a director myself. I would like to call myself a Danganronpa connoisseur, because I've been all around the community for quite a while now, and have had the honor to be in many different ones. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming, as always. And last but not least, we have Venona's voice actor, Brooke. Brooke, thank you so much for coming. Can you also please introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke, and I voice Winona. I've been a voice actor now for around 2.5 years, nearing 3 in January. You can hear me in other Danganronpas, I believe, Eden's Garden, this one here. Showdown and Deceit, where I play Ray and Delilah DeLune. And I've done voiceover professionally for around a year now. My most recent role that I've been able to announce is Crush Crush. You can go and play it if you'd like. But it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me on.
And thank you so much. Let's begin with a general question, something I asked also last week's panelist. How you guys basically got an interest into Danganronpa generally, and how you specifically found Project Eden's Garden. And I think to start off, I would like to ask our voice actors first, and then our writers. probably think it's more interesting to switch things up here a little bit. So, Brooke, why don't you start first, and then Snow, and then later on with Starlight and Fire?
Okay. I stumbled across Eden's Garden randomly by a YouTube video algorithm. I was just playing whatever video was coming up next in the queue, and the trailer had come up, and it caught my interest. I looked into it more, found its Twitter, followed it, and then once the casting call was posted, I decided, oh, okay, why not shoot my shot? Seems pretty cool. Auditioned for a handful of the girls, got a call back, made the call back, and now I'm here.
And I just wanted to ask, is like you mentioned you had like different fangames you already interacted before. How do you say it would be like different from this one in terms of like what did you expect from this project from the others, if I may ask?
I was cast for Delilah shortly before being cast for Winona. So my experience with being cast for fangams was not all that familiar to me before those two. But I think really a difference was... I can't really find a distinct difference between them, but... if there's a similarity, both their voice prints are very similar for the characters in both their characters that I voice there. But yeah, I think that's all.
Yeah, no, I was just interested about how the process of that was. But yeah, it's kind of makes sense. But yeah, moving on to Snow. Yeah, what was your like first experience with Project Eden's Garden? How did you get like interest to it, so to speak?
Yeah, so when I just started getting familiar with Danganronpa and its fan games, I found a lot of projects about it on Casting Call Club. It was kind of intriguing to me because the Danganronpa concept is so fun to experiment with and make up your own ideas by taking like a base like that. Most of the ones I went for were on a smaller scale because I really liked helping out, people that were kind of like new to everything. And after a few of them getting canceled, I was kind of like, I don't want to keep auditioning and then, maybe it gets like canceled. So I was kind of waiting for one that like really piqued my interest. So the first one that really caught my interest was Danganronpa 4K by Danganfran. And he was looking for people to voice for his upcoming animatic The Box. Of course, I sent in an audition. Also, my cat wants to say something too. But I wasn't expecting Fran to actually like reach out to me saying I got the part. In the video, I got to do two voices, Akira's and Hoshi's. And Sweden was actually going to be the programmer on 4K, and Robbie was going to do the music. We like hung out a lot in the VCs. But then one day Sweden was like, yeah, I'm going to be less active here because I'm working on Eden's Garden now. And was kind of like, if you want to keep talking to me like on a daily basis, here's the server. And I was like, okay, I know literally nothing about this project, but sure, I'll follow you. And that's where it began.
And that's like how you also like met other team members of the team, right? Like shortly after.
Yeah, shortly after, yeah.
Because I noticed that you like were like everywhere. Like at the beginning, I can imagine like one of the first users before we actually like announced the VA applications. I saw your name like
Yeah.
going around. You were basically everywhere, and it's like, oh, okay. There's like one of the users who are basically regulars. So it's also pretty interesting how everyone
It's
came
actually-
together.
It's actually so odd to think like, oh my god, like I was one of the OG regulars in the server.
I know. And oh my god.
Yeah.
And like especially when we had like general VCs, I can imagine that you were like one of the few people who would every day like be there, like every second day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. Moving on to our writers. Yeah, Star, like, how did your journey begin into Project Eden's Garden? Or let's say about Danganronpa in general. How did your interest?
So long story short, it was my girlfriend. It was my partner. She, when we were first dating, she introduced me to Danganronpa, and we went through all of the base games, including the shooter game, the side game. We went through all of them together, and I fell in love with the franchise, especially with how the trials went and how Ultra Despair. Thank you, Justin. But a few years passed after that, and then it was January of 2021, and my partner sent me a TikTok, and it was the Eden's Garden one that was going around at the time. Just like, oh my goodness, look at this fan game going around. It looks so cool. And my partner was like, you should try joining it. And I'm like, I don't know if they have any availability for writers, but I'll see. And Lord and behold, they did. So I applied, and then it's been over 2 years of just craziness and creative liberties. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I remember it was I think it's 3 years since the trailer dropped. I'm not sure. Yeah, and like and I remember like how small the team was there at the beginning and how many we have now. It's it's so amazing how like quickly that kind of like transpired and how many people we now have. But yeah. Moving on to Fire. How did your journey begin with Project Eden's Garden?
Well, I don't remember how I got into Danganronpa, but my first experience with Peg was I was in like this general Fangame Hub server, and I saw this like link to a really like small Fangame. I think this was back in like 2020. The server had like 50 members probably, and I joined for the fun of it because I was like, oh, okay, this looks cool. And then I just hung around the server for a bit until I like met Nefast. And I was like, hey, do you need writers? And we had this like really short conversation about it, and then I ended up just messaging the former director. I just sent him my portfolio, and he fucking hired me. So, and now I'm here.
Damn.
It was really simple now that I think about it, but
damn, I mean,
that's pretty much it. Like,
it's amazing like how things like kind of like revolved around just trying to join it for the fun of it, because like
literally.
everything, the first thing that like so many people came into the team was just the trailer alone. And like having also people who joined before that or even quickly after that, it's just amazing how like kind of like it evolved throughout like the entire project lifespan and how many people came from these different reasons. I mean, for me, it was mainly through the inspiration of the trailer, but I'm very glad to kind of like go with this kind of like journey over the past 2 years. Hopefully, also in the future of going on forward with that. Right. So
yeah, for sure.
Going on with a bit more centric question is just to quickly describe of how hard in terms of like your role is it like as a writer to write like a premise like Danganronpa but make it a bit unique. And sorry for our voice actors here, but I will be asking a follow-up question after that. So Fire and Starlight, basically when we have been tasked, right, with your team to write like a premise for let's say just a general story outline, how different is it like from a usual, let's say just a basic story, than with a premise like Danganronpa?
Can I answer first, Fire?
Yeah.
So the main difference between like a normal story and a Danganronpa inspired story is that you're going into this knowing that a majority of your cast is not going to be permanent. So you have to think of these characters not as disposable, but as a temporary asset to the grander narrative you're trying to tell. And that's like the biggest challenge that the game, that the story presents, because you can't rely on these characters being around in the long term, because the very nature of the genre means that people gotta go. So you can't, you have to work around that, as the best way to put it. Anything to add up with Fire?
No, yeah, I agree. I think a similarly like hard part is like you have to make sure each character has like a concrete like even if it's tiny, they still need to have an arc and you still need to wrap it with a bow. Or else if they die, then it's gonna feel like they didn't get their full potential or there's gonna be so many unanswered questions. You really have to balance how much screen time they get in order to make it like when they do die, it still feels like satisfactory, I guess. Like that sounds really cruel, but like you really just have to, it's like a balancing act between 16 different characters, so it's kind of a challenge. But
and as well as probably with so many characters in something going on like that, I can already also tell that is very stressful trying to handle every single one of them. Is there like in specifically, like, for example, let's talk about the prologue real quick. Was there like any specific character during the development of the prologue where you had a bit of trouble kind of like introducing them to the player, or was it kind of like smooth sailing, like once one domino dropped and everything followed after?
honestly, the prologue was like the easiest part of this entire thing. Like not like literally like on a script level, we wrote that thing in like 3 months, I think. Drafting wise, of course, it took we edited it for a while, but like drafting it took 3 months, and I feel like that's because we didn't really have to deal with any like concrete anchors, and like the most tense it gets is in the trial. Like we don't really have to deal with genuine death because, of course, Kara is a doll, so there's no actual like emotional buildup, which makes it much easier to draft out compared to like chapter one, which of course, yeah, we all know how that's gonna go. So
Spoilers for chapter zeros, by the way. I forgot to mention that, but
oh,
I think everybody played it by now, so you're all good. Yeah. Anything you wanted to add on that, Starlight?
It's. I do agree with Fire that it's a lot easier to develop a prologue around a single set of characters that you know are not expendable for that chapter. But a little bit of hidden lore. I wasn't as involved with the prologue as I will be with the rest of the game, but I can answer from just what I saw and what I understood is a lot easier to give stakes to a doll as opposed to an actual character right off the rip.
Right.
So,
and yeah, as the community is already saying in the chat, it was very highly received, and the majority obviously was very amazed and even very fortunate that they even gotten like a kind of like a demo trial session where they saw every character kind of like in their action. And obviously there's something that is basically very unique to Project Eden's Garden, I would say, and hopefully we'll see something similar as well with its magic in the next coming chapters. But yeah, speaking of the plot, or rather than the cast of that, let's move on with some few questions for our voice actors. I'm sorry if I have left you here for a few minutes. But yeah, so I wanted to start off also with a similar question. Compared to like similar gigs of voice acting, what do you think is like different voice acting for a game, or particular in Project Eden's Garden, that you wouldn't really see in other gigs, like in voice acting gigs? Yeah, Brooke, do you want to start first?
That is actually a really great question. I have to think about it because when it comes to different genres of voiceover, there's a different type of voice style that some directors are going for, such as like the trends for video games right now. They're aiming for a sense of realism in their characters, a sense of groundedness, if that's a word.
Right.
I feel that with Eden's Garden, that is also what we're going for. These characters, they all are their own unique being, and with that comes a voice that suits what they're here representing and who they are. And I feel that it's akin to what video games are going for right now. Compared to animation, where we're going for somewhat grounded voices, but is also has some sort of unique tone to it or texture, it could go the same way for video games, but the main difference between it is the level of realism that those genres are going for.
Yeah, makes sense. And what about you, Snow? Anything that was particular in terms of like other gigs that you had?
Honestly, I have no idea how to answer this question. I feel like Brooke covered most of it.
I mean, it's a very
really tough question.
Tough question, and yeah, I can kind of like understand. So let me kind of like go as more specific in that route, I guess. So what do you think makes your character unique in Project Eden's Garden? Like when you initially saw the description in the voice acting gig, and what your initial like idea was behind the project itself, and how it kind of like suffied your expectations during like the submission process and so on and so forth. Snow, why would you want to begin?
Oh my god, I did not prepare for this question. I mean, it's just gonna become like me gushing about Diana.
Right.
Because I think there are so many unique things about her. From the start, I was already like, most people will know, but I already had such a connection with the character, because giving like a look at her bio and what she looks like, it was so easy for me to kind of like grasp an idea of what her personality would be. And I was like, that's creepily close to my own personality. And I think like one of the main things is like the announcement of like who got chosen, right? The line that I had in that, which was like, my friends and I have too much to live for and too much to achieve. Yeah, that one. I was like pleasantly surprised, because I mean, I didn't expect her to not be more than she seemed, but I was also like, okay, like, dang, she is very forceful. Like, a lot of the characters are kind of like, they get silent and they get scared.
Right.
And I wasn't fully expecting her to be like, yeah, we're not gonna give up. Like,
have kind of like this
like that was
personality.
Yeah, it was such like a pleasant surprise for me. And that's what I very much adore about her.
Yeah, I mean, considering Diana is like a very unique character in the cast as well, and kind of like being inspired by everyone, it's very interesting and how kind of like that future kind of like evolves into that. But yeah, speaking of the characters of Peg, Brooke, what was your like first impression of Winona as a character, and how did you kind of like transpire that into your voice acting lines, specifically for the prologue?
My first impression of Winona was when I first looked at her and I looked at her audition lines, I was a little stumped on how to convey something as her. I stated it earlier in maybe the VA introductory panel where Winona was the one character I did not expect for myself to get cast as I felt that my audition for her was way out of what I thought they were going to be expecting. But alas, I was wrong. So when directors give me a character and they give me their layout, I try to see what I have in common with them. And with Winona, I didn't really have a lot in common with her, so it did make it a bit harder. But when it comes to that, I do try to incorporate some of my own mannerisms into that character. One similarity I did found was that both me and Winona are a bit sassy with our replies. We do have a little bit of snootiness. So I was like, okay, let's hook on that. Let's do that. Let's see if we can, ride off of this. And I believe it went pretty well. And one thing I do admire about Winona is that, one, yeah, she is pretty, but the other thing that I think is more important is her drive. Her drive to have her empire succeed. Sales, employees, empire success. That's what matters most to her. And I find that really, really awesome. Just love seeing women. Seeing women just really succeed in these. I didn't finish my sentence. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Seeing women succeed in the economy.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I was also very glad that every character has like their specific memes, like especially with Diana's I want to be the friend kind of trial line, and then you have Winona's easy get a job in marketing line, where so many memes were kind of like made out of that, and it's always so funny to see how creative the community is. By even when the game is out for almost a year already, and still finding unique memes to create. It's such a blast. I mean, yeah. General question to you guys: do you follow any of the characters' memes, and do you have like a favorite for the prologue stuff? Let's Fire. Do you have one? Probably. You have so many detailed answered.
Well, it's not really associated with any of the characters, but Damien for sure. I love Damien, the 17th secret student, the ultimate volleyball player. I love that guy. He is my favorite. So
true. Yeah. What about you, Starlight?
I don't have a specific character, although I will say the amount of content that is spurred on from Wolfgang screaming at the top of his lungs, 28 stab wounds, and it's just the amount of chicanery that has spurred on from that. Priceless, legitimately priceless. But there was one that I made. There was a meme that I made specifically, when the game came out, and I'll put it in the chat room. I'm sending a link to it. It's just like a funny little meme I made, just to like celebrate the fact that we did it, and I think it's funny. But you need to have access to the prologue chat in order to see it, though. So, but other than 28 stab wounds and Damien, because you can't forget Damien, just a little funny one was maybe he thought the K.O. was her friend. It was also top notch.
Just for context for the audio listeners, Starlight linked a TikTok video of basically a caption where it says the Project Eden's Garden team releasing an innocent prologue, and it's the intro of Please Shake My Hand with the guy who does the funky dance moves while the camera is spinning around. So just to give you guys context on that note. But yeah, moving on to Snow, what is your favorite Project Eden's Garden meme, if you have one? Or two.
It already got stolen. It's the Diana Gewawahafwen.
Yeah, okay, it makes sense.
Yeah. Though, like, there are so many fan memes. The two that I love that I can currently think of is Diana and Kai going to a haunted house, which me and Tarquin are obsessed with. Like, every single time we watch it, we're like, this is so us. And then the second one, it's so stupid, but in like the best way, which is Damon ruins the crayon song.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just so great.
I completely forgot about that one. Yes, oh my god, it's such a good one.
Like, there are so many videos sometimes where I'm like, first of all, how did you even think of that? And second, like what gave you the idea? Like, somebody making an amazing cover of We Don't Talk About Bruno, but going like, we don't talk about Damon, no. Like, I just love it. Like, first of all, like, thank you for making that. Secondly, like, please tell me like how that thought came into your mind. It's amazing.
The community is so fast. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I interject? One more thing before we continue. There was another meme that we did internally. Carlito recorded it. Carlito records a lot of like shit posts, and one of the ones he did that I will never forget, because right at the beginning with the train, you know, everyone gets like chemically indentured. So he recorded himself saying, "Love is in the air." Wrong. Gas leak. And it's just, that one just lives in my head rent free. That was my last answer.
Just also wanted to add a note there. Whoever that guy was who made these Family Feud videos, like on the day the prologue was released, respect. That was so fast on how they got that video out. Like, once they like played it, it's they made like 2 or 3 videos about that at the day of the release. It was amazing how much like content that was put out there during the release. So but last but not least, Brooke, do you have like a specific meme that you particularly like for your character, or in general?
In general, I can't remember the one that I saw of Winona. Maybe it'll come back to me later. But one in general, I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but the gay or European meme is my absolute favorite.
That animatic is so good.
Perfect. It is just totally immaculate. Would never get tired of like watching it.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, I think they also made like multiple versions of that. I can't remember when that was released. It's amazing to see like how creative the community is and how many tropes they can do. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I see an Alexander Hamilton bit with the Project Eden's Garden character cast being done, like because there's so much like content going on with that, and it's just amazing how fast these people sometimes are with those things. But yeah,
it's insane.
So I wanted to go generally with the next topic, and that is back at the day when the team officially announced the application for opening voice actor roles. And it might be a bit harrowing for writers. In case for the people who didn't know, it was a very, very demanding task. We had a lot of kind of like applications, but we don't want to go too much into the details. I just wanted to like generally give you guys, ask you about that day, like when we did the announcement, of how you guys felt and what you guys' expectation was initially, and how you received once like the popularity of that kind of like exploded. So let's just start with Fire again. What was your initial impression of that?
Okay, well, if you want the honest truth, I do not remember that day at all. But if I had to guess what I was thinking, I was probably excited because like hearing people like voice these characters you've written is just it's a really cool feeling. So it's probably feeling that. That's it, I guess, because I just don't remember what happened that day. I think I
Honestly,
did
you're
set up the
based.
CCC though, and that was a very like troublesome experience. So getting it out there was really nice, but otherwise, like I have no clue.
Oh yeah, we can go on later on that. Just let me know if you're comfortable talking about that. In regards to setting up the TTC. But yeah, Starlight.
Yeah,
What
of
was
course.
your first impression of that?
Me?
Yeah.
So I fortunately can remember it because so remember the first discussions we were having internally about opening up VAs applications. It was a very back and forth thing with us, but it came to a point where we all agreed at the same time, like, look, the more time we have to work with VAs, the more likely we'll be released this sooner. So the more time we have, the earlier it'll come out. So, we set up the CCC, which that was mostly all Fire, I think. So thank you, Fire.
Yeah.
But then we opened it, we made the announcement, and it was just a wave. It was like a wave of just that was the first real moment that I got to witness personally, just this giant wave of like publicity, of people joining the server, excitement, and I'll be honest, I was kind of worried because I realized going into it that it was going to be a monumental task, but the end of the application process was even more worrisome because hot fact, the last 24 hours of the applications being opened, we received 1,000 applications in that last 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it was
and it went
scary.
so bad. Just wanted to add something. It went so bad that the actual website, CCC, at least our website where we accept these applications or where you can do the submissions, actually crashed. So you couldn't really load in the website for a few hours until we actually got notified by the staff that they're going to upscale the project priority. And within 72 hours, we were first place of all time in terms of like rated projects, and we got over I think 20,000 unique server user impressions, which in layman's terms is like people who kind of like firstly clicked on that link and to just see the website, and it was 20,000. It does not exclude people who are on mobile, but like around 20,000 was that. And apparently like 75% of that was like during the announcement and later on at the end of this submission deadline that caused the spikes of CCC to kind of like push the resources up to make sure that the site was running. So it was very amazing to see how much was kind of like going on that website, and it was very scary, but kind of like a good feeling to see how many people were actually interested in this project. But yeah, I also wanted to ask our ideally VAs here, what was your like first impression after you heard like the VA announcement? Did you guys notice that, or was it something that you like only saw later on? Snow, do you want to ask the question?
Oh boy.
Go ahead.
Oh, I noticed it. I was terrified. To any aspiring voice actors, I recommend you do not get as attached to a character as I did. The basic policy should be send and forget. I think the fact that I already knew Sweden and Robbie added some extra pressure to do well, not from them, but like the pressure that I put on myself. And kind of the more acquainted I became with these like wildly talented staff members, the harder it got to detach myself. In the end, it worked out fine for me, but since this isn't always the case, I recommend just like don't be like me. Don't do it. Please don't get attached. Yeah.
Yeah, and Brooke, what was your like first impression after the VA announcement?
I still vividly remember that day. I remember watching the vlog with my friend, and upon the scene of the VA announcements being announced, or casting call being announced, it was like an immediate, oh my god, they're actually doing it. So I imagine I was running to my booth, closing the door and being like, okay, I'm ready to record. Let's see the characters and their lines. And I think overall, the casting process, I stayed pretty quiet through most of it. There was a discussion chat, obviously, and I mostly just looked in there and like saw what people were talking about. Everyone was really friendly, and the one thing I love about fangame communities in general is how supportive everyone is during the audition process, because there are a lot of people going for these roles. Some are just starting out. Some of these people have a few years of experience doing voiceover. And all of these people from all walks in their voiceover careers just helping each other out is just really wholesome to see. And seeing that it was the same thing here was also just really nice to know about. And even towards the end of it, where people were just wishing each other luck and just hoping that everyone did their best and making sure that everyone felt confident in what they were submitting, was just a really nice experience to see throughout this entire process.
Yeah,
As being a voice actor with all this... Oh, you go.
No, please finish your sentence. If you had something to say. Oh, you were done.
Just saying, like... Oh, I was just saying, like, being a voice actor and just all these people going for the same role, it's nice being friendly to one of these, to all of these other people and forming connections and friendships with all of these people. So that way, later down the road, if coincidentally, again, you guys run into each other, there's just nothing but nice things to think about when you see them.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many people, like Starlight said, actively contributed into this project and wanted to be part of it. And huge props to anyone who put their submission out for their character they wanted to voice act. I know it's like a huge kind of like preparation time to kind of like get into the setting and trying to their best into getting this character in it. And I think I speak everyone from the team here that your efforts were greatly appreciated. And unfortunately, we had to decide it to 17 voices at that time. So I'm very, very fortunate to kind of like pursue that event. It was also very scary at the beginning, but also we're kind of glad that we gotten so many submissions to give the best quality out for the community. On that note, I also wanted to, guys, let you also know on a small fun fact. In regards to like when we created the page, we had a lot of like issues in determining like putting out submission, like listing out all of the submissions and making sure that it is working, because sometimes on the website, since so much traffic was going on, the website didn't do its thing or update it accordingly. So we had a lot of issues since there were so many people accessing the specific site that we had to do like an external document to kind of like list everything out. But it was a very, very challenging process, and as well as how Starlight and Saze kind of like went through the entire like thing and make sure everything is like organized, and wanted to shout out these guys in particular for their amazing work of making sure everything is readable and going according to plan that day. So
don't forget when we accidentally casted Pap like 2 weeks into the audition process.
That was a nightmare.
Anyway, like he fucking got it anyway.
That was a nightmare.
Not only that, we couldn't undo that kind of like thing, right? Because it was, first of all, for those who were unaware, there's like this button, I guess, what you can do to kind of like cast these specific people, and then there's like another kind of like thing where you can precast them. It's kind of like putting them into selection, and what it does, it's kind of like actively notifying the person that you have been like accepted into this specific role, when in reality it was just a mistake. I don't know what the original reason was there, but I think it was just like the website spazzing out, and the entire writing team was in a panic mode.
Oh,
yeah, I remember all of Saz's emails. Like, we kept having to email their staff team. Like,
can I interject?
Go ahead.
So, just so everyone is aware, the button to deny someone and the button to cast someone, it is a dislike button and a like button. So, the button to shortlist someone is just the word shortlist them. So someone listened to this person and said, "Oh, I like it." So they pushed the like button, thinking that it was going to be a shortlist. But as it turns out, that is actually the button to cast them. So that was a very fun 24 hours of, hey, who did that? We need to tell this person now. And thank goodness it was someone that we ended up casting anyway, because good lord, that was a fun time frame.
yeah, for sure.
And I can remember how long it took for the website to actually load. Mainly because we had like such a big site, like we had obviously 17 characters to fill out, but as well as like loading everything took so long. I remember to make sure that the website was still running, like when I started my PC, I just clicked on the link and just get something to eat, and when I'm coming back, it just finished loading. So that's kind of like the amount of time it took for me to load the website. But yeah, I'm very glad that this is finally over. But yeah, let's move on to a similar topic, and that is when we officially kind of like revealed the cast of Project Eden's Garden. So, and I would like to start with our writer, and by kind of like asking a kind of like a similar question is, when you heard Snow's and Brooke's kind of like submission for their character, what if you want to talk about it, obviously, what was your like impression of when you heard that submission? And Fire, would you like to start first?
I'm not sure how to like fully describe it. It's just like, I need to find the word, because like you can hear it from a mile away. Like the second you open that audition, you're like, oh shit, oh sorry, Shunkers. I was like, oh my god, this is the person. And it's just like, it went from there. I think we all had our favorites, but most of the people we picked were just there from the get-go. Like, we knew they were that character. They just fully embodied it. And further, like, rounds and, like, interviews, it just really confirmed it for us. And we're like, oh my god. And there's this, like, running joke in the staff team that all the voice actors are essentially just their characters in real life. And we haven't really been disproving yet, but it's, like, pretty true, so.
Yeah. It was... I do agree with Fire. I'm gonna say that a lot today. There were 17 characters we had to audition for, and so that meant at least every character had 30, 40, 50 plus. And the best, I won't say the best. The most in character, the ones that we imagined for these characters did stick out to a lot of us. General advice though, keep applying for stuff in general as a voice actor, because Lord knows there's someone that needs your exact voice for a project. But otherwise, we did have our favorites, and we did have lots and lots of discussions and debates about certain characters. I'm not going to say who.
The debates.
There was the one character we went on for days. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But like, it was but these were all productive. Like, this wasn't like angry. These were productive debates because we wanted these characters to sound like like themselves. But
right.
Fire did put it best that we did end up casting the personifications of these characters, but if they weren't in a killing game. And it's such a funny joke, but each day passes by and a voice actor does something, and we just joke about it, and they're like, yeah, no, we made the right choices to cast all these people at the end of the day. Every single one of them have been a blessing to work with. Every single one has been a great person to just hang around with. And it's just a great time all around.
Yeah, and although I wasn't like active in this discussions, I kind of like saw it in the documentation and like the chats that you have had, and yeah, I can approve of that. That's like no second was spared in this productive session of the selection process. So yeah, you know that Starlight became the VO lead when the discussion happened. Let me just kind of like summarize that.
There was to follow up on that, I have 5 years of acting experience. It's high school, so it's not like professional, but I was in the thick of drama and acting and theater.
Right.
So I did have the proper knowledge on how these were going to go. I'm not going to say no one was a deciding factor. We all generally agreed on certain actors, but a lot of my knowledge helped with a lot of these decisions. That I can say.
Yeah, and moving on to our voice actors, kind of like abbreviating from that question is, how was like your experience from submitting your character submission up to seeing the actual announcement of the VAs? Snow, would you like to start?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was incredibly nervous. And the thing is, like, there was even a moment where I was so nervous that I straight up was like, I'm not gonna audition. And there were so many people who immediately went like, what? What? Girl, no, you're lying. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm too scared. And I am so thankful to anybody that like supported me, because otherwise I wouldn't have been here, and that would have been really sad. It was terrifying, but I'm so glad that I did it in the end.
I mean, yeah, and as you can see, it all paid off. And I'm very, very glad that you also got the role. I mean, I'm a Jet boy, but I also have to love Diana. Those are two of my favorite characters, basically, of the cast. I'm sorry, Brooke. We have a lot of other people that love your character as well. But if I had to choose,
I love your character, Brooke. I love your character.
We all love Winona, of course, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, Brooke, how was your experience like from your first submission to the final announcement?
Okay. Originally I was not submitting for Winona, as I mentioned earlier. I thought she was way out of my range. I recorded something for her. I sent it to a friend. I was like, okay, what do you think? I don't think I'm going to submit it. And they were saying, if you don't submit this, I don't know what I'll do. And then I responded, okay, fine, we'll just shove it in there, see what happens. So around the 2 months go by, casting call ends. And then I'm here seeing like no messages. I'm like, okay, didn't get cast. All right, cool. And then I'm here at work one day. I forgot what day it was. I hear my phone vibrate, take it out of my pocket. Lo and behold, it's a callback message. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then I go and see it's for Winona. And I'm like, oh, no way. No way. So I spent around maybe a good day working on her callback audition. And it was around the time I submitted it. And truthfully, I thought I did terrible. I thought my acting choices were really not the best that I could do. But given that I only spent maybe like a day, it was like, okay, just send in what you have and see how it goes. And I thought nothing of it. thought I didn't get the role. Just good game. I did the best I could.
Right.
And then I remember, what was it? Maybe it was holiday. And I woke up and I'm checking my phone and I see I have another message. Lo and behold, saying, "Hey, we'd like to cast you." And I'm here like, no way. No way. And so I remember I was up that morning. It was maybe 4 or 5 a.m., really early. Woke up for whatever reason. And I remember just being so excited I could not go back to sleep. So, yeah, it was definitely an experience, but overall it was a pretty positive one.
Can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
A lot. I think every voice actor reacted in a very similar way to Brooke, but special shout out will go to Stanpie, who's the voice for Jet Dawson, who, when being told that everything needs to be kept a secret, he said, "Yeah, secrecy," like Jet would. So it was perfect. But everyone did react in a very similar manner of just general shock and awe and happiness, and it was such a great feeling to see everyone reacting so positively to the casting.
And one other thing, in the final stage of the process, we already gave every confirmed voice actor a specific role, because we wanted to set up the specific voice channels and text channels before we actually made the announcements. And it was so amazing to see the chat history of other people who got their confirmed role of their specific roles. I remember Stanpie and Dr. Pab interacting with each other, and it's like, no way you got this role, no way you got this role as well. And it was so amazing to see, and obviously making sure that everybody was on the same page in terms of when we do finally announce it, and making sure that our VAs, in terms of DM interactions, are safe. Nothing weird happens on that. Yeah, it was a very exciting day until we had the final official release of the video. And I think to this day, it's one of our most successful videos yet of our YouTube channel. I didn't expect it to get so much popularity. Especially within the first hour, so many people gotten an interest into the reveal of the voice actor cast. I was amazing how even great their support also was, and seeing other YouTubers react to it, like Blaze and Weeby, was amazing to see, and was also very glad for the writers to see it was such a huge support, and kind of all the majority of the people absolutely loved the cast. And yeah, kind of reassures us that the writer team did a good job in selecting the people that they had in mind. But yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I keep mentioning that. I keep interjecting. The reactions to that was great, especially Blaze, who fell out of their chair twice during their video. Once for Snow, and then another one for Brooke too, because Snow and Blaze are besties, and I believe Brooke and Blaze are besties as well. So to watch Blaze just absolutely lose their mind was gold.
Yeah, and it goes to show how passionate the fans are for Project Eden's Garden, and this, I think, is also a very good motivator for our team to make sure that kind of hard work is being supported and acknowledged by them. And even though I'm always a bit scary when we're about to release something, I'm very glad that the community is so welcoming and open to anything that we kind of do, and is very supportive of that in that matter as well. Yeah, so a last question before we go to the official community questions. For you guys, if you didn't do that already, we have a text channel right above the stage we see called Podcast Question, where you can basically ask any questions you would like to know about the cast, and we'll try our best to answer them. Just leave it down below and make sure that it's properly it's a proper question, so we can answer them as soon as possible. Yeah, so let's talk about the prologue section. We kind of like delayed it a bit, or kind of like briefly avoided that. I guess I would say. So, as for like the whole recording session, right? Especially like in terms of planning and getting the lines right. How was that process for you guys, and what did you kind of like experienced in that way that you now know how to do? And I guess I would like to start with Fire, if you want to.
I don't really know how to answer this. Like,
Mm.
I didn't really go to the live. I don't remember if we did live sessions yet, but I was mostly there just to like choose takes because we normally choose like 3 to 4 takes per line, and then everyone decides which one they like the most.
Mm.
But other than that, I didn't really have that much input over the specific lines, other than like literally writing them. So Star can probably answer this one better.
What
Right.
was the question? I
How
need to
was the
think about
recording?
it.
How was the recording session for the prologue of Project Ian's Garden? Was there something that kind of like, in terms of like planning and what you learned during that? Or
So,
guess,
okay, I'll start right off the rip. The biggest thing I learned, because we're all still like noobs, a majority of us are still college kids, right?
yeah. Right.
The biggest thing I learned is when it comes to voice acting, doing a one-on-one live direction session is the best thing that you can do to save time. Okay? Because we were so overwhelmed with the amount of things we needed to do, because not only did we have to record the entire like mock trial, but we also had to record all of the general lines, and each one had at least 50 plus. So that's, do some stupid math real quick, over 500, 600 lines. So we had a sheet for everyone, and we said, good luck, here's your due date, lol. And back and forth took a while, but we still got the results we wanted. Thankfully, you can hear that. So long story short, the main thing I learned is if you have a voice cast, if you have a crew of voice actors, please, for all that is holy, do live direction. Because I'm telling you, going back and forth is a lot more time in between giving the lines and receiving the lines, especially as a voice actor as well, because you have so many other projects you need to worry about and real life. But live direction also helps with like direct feedback right on the spot, which a lot of other art forms are not as good at. Voice acting is very good when you do live directions in that regard.
Right. Yeah, and I quickly wanted to add something here, since Justin is in our spectator group here. For the entire prologue, there were 1,300 total voiced lines, including probably also the sound bits that each of the cast members did. So, yeah, you can probably imagine how big kind of like the scope for the prologue is, and with the mock trial. And to also kind of like give another kind of like perspective, all these lines had to be manually edited and implemented into the game as well, which was also handled by Justin. So I would like to give a huge applause to him for making all that work and making sure that the quality is top notch. So thank you very much, Justin, for going through all of these lines and making sure that nothing breaks during that process. But yeah, moving on to our voice actors. How was it like in terms of like your recording session going on? Something that you have learned in there? Snow, would you like to start first?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember too much about recording the prologue. I feel like it went really smoothly. The only thing I got told a few times was like, just use your normal voice. Like, don't put up a voice, don't make her sound too anime, don't make her sound too cutesy. Like, it needs to be natural. But the only time I really had a difficulty was with my friends and I, because I'm pretty sure like Soze kept being like, no, do it again, because I kept doing, we won't throw that away for your killing game. Like I kind of like went up there, and it had to be for your killing game. Like it needed to be like very bold, and it couldn't go high. It couldn't sound cute or happy. So I'm pretty sure that line had to be recorded at least 7 to 10 times. Yeah. It was really fun. It was worth it, but it's a lot of takes.
Right.
It's a lot of takes.
And what about
yeah, for
you,
the
Brooke?
rest of the was fine.
What? Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I remember recording for Winona for the prologue, it being during the end of my senior year of high school, and that was definitely one of the most hectic times in my life at that point. So whatever free moment I had to record, I would do so. And so that took a really long time. And if I'm correct, it took maybe around 8 weeks for me to get my lines in for review, which definitely was, not one of my best moments, but they got in. And the corrections was easier, seeing that at the time of me submitting them, I was much more free and able to act accordingly and settle my own time schedule without anything or other priorities in the way. So first part was a little hectic, and going back on what Star said, live sessions are a total godsend. If you can do them, please do them. It doesn't only benefit you, it benefits the director and everyone else who has to work on this project, as they all have different priorities and also other jobs when it comes to the voice lines too. But overall, it was still a pretty good experience. You got to learn more about your character. You got to learn more about their mannerisms and what they're like. And also, personally, I loved recording the float line, so it was really fun to record.
Right. And obviously, it's a very, very kind of like unique setting as well. Especially considering this was this is like everything is made for free, and it goes on to showing like how much dedication each of the team members is kind of like pushing into these boundaries to make sure that the quality of Project Eden's Garden goes above and beyond about that. So one more from me, it's like a huge thank you for actually going through all of these lines and making sure that the prologue gets the highest quality that it will get, and hopefully also for the future chapters as well. All right, with that being said, I think it's now a great time to move on to our community questions. So the way and how we do that is I'm going to read you guys the questions, and depending on the context and who can answer these questions, you can just basically let me know by just saying, hey, I think I can answer that question. And in order to make it an orderly fashion, if you want to have something to add, just basically wait up for the first person to finish talking, and then you can guys continue. All right. So with that being said, our first question is coming from Sebastian Draws Stuff, who's basically asking, what is the writing template of the script like? I'm not going to the examples because you said it is neither, so how is it like scripted on your end?
It's okay, it's name. Wait, I'm gonna start. Can you explain this?
Yeah. So it's name of character, Damon, Winona, Diana, etc. And then /, and then we have the whole collection of sprites, and they're named based off of a specific format. So for example, if we want like a Mad Damon, I think it's like 5A, 5B, 5C, something like that. So it'd be Damon / 5A : line. And we've developed it that way so that it was the easiest digestible for Sweden's script reader that he has, and it has made implementing the script from like a slog to a NASCAR race, and it was so nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Sweden is still among us, but yeah, basically, it is kind of like a script importer where you use specific syntax. So in layman's terms, like specific symbols to kind of like automate the process of importing the dialogue into the game. Just makes it a lot of things easier rather than just manually copy and pasting everything that has been written in script. And it saves a lot of time. Otherwise, it would take a very long time to get these things out. But yeah. Thank you so much for the question. Oh boy, I have to scroll down. All right, so next question is coming from Starlight, but obviously this is a very easy question to answer by not answering that question. Next question.
Oh.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. It's basically, you said, is cereal a soup?
Oh, is it?
I don't know if we
No.
can really answer that question in terms of its philosophical grounds. I don't think
it is. It is a soup if you think it is. Smile. Anyway, next question.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's smiling?
Let's continue with the next question. Basically, let me just check real quick on other questions. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, so next question is from Fern de Griffin. He basically asks what would happen if a VA was no longer able to voice a character. I'm going to quickly answer this question just out of neutrality because I don't want to kind of like proceed this question longer. Basically, if that is the case, we will let you notify that in that sense and basically give you guys detailed information on how we proceed with that. Obviously, we do not want to wish for someone to stop doing the work, although it's a free-to-play project and anything can happen within the following years. So we'll try our best with everyone to still have a positive connection and hoping that everyone will be there until the end. All right, let's continue on with the next question. All right, that's a pretty good question. So next one is from Ashikins, and they are asking, other than Project Eden's Garden, what are your favorite fangames, if any, you have played or interacted before? So let's start with Brooke first. Do you have any experience with other fangames? And if yes, do you have any favorite ones outside of PEG?
Well, I'm like a deer in headlights. I'm not all that well versed with other fangames, but one of them that did catch my attention because of the voice cast was Kill Cure. There were a lot of voice actors that I really admired on there, and I really loved seeing what their work was. It was really awesome, amazing. Very much a fan of that.
Right, thanks. And what about you, Snow? Any specific fangames? Is it 4K or is it probably a different one?
I love 4K. I have a soft spot for it, but since it's not really active right now, I haven't thought about it much. But for me, one that is really dear to my heart, and I have a really good connection with the cast as well, is Danganronpa Fate's Return. I love my character. She's very serious, to the point. She's still really sweet, but like differently. And it's such a fun character for me to portray. And Kranzi is an amazing director as well. I'll put it down for people to check it out. It's really good.
Right, thanks. And yeah, moving on to Starlight.
Well, I'll be honest. Eden's Garden is the only real fan game that I'm like involved with, that I'm interested with. But off the top of my head, Kill Cure is on my list. Unmasked Truths is on my list, and sorry if I butcher this. The Uzumagochi Massacre is on my list. I would say those three are my top choices.
Right, and Fire, do you have any favorites?
Well, I have watched probably most Dangans out there, so I have three picks. One is Kill Cure, probably because I write for it, but I love the cast so much. Second is Eternal Endings. It released like a couple months ago, I think, and it's pretty fun. I really like the dialogue and especially the characters. And then the one that like released 2 weeks ago, I think, Net Danganronpa. There's only one episode out, but I'm already in love with it, especially the protagonist. So you should probably like check those out or
Yeah.
something.
I'm, I mean, as for me, one of the fangans that really kind of like was interested to me was the Danganronpa Another series, mainly because that was one of the very first kind of like fangan interaction I had, aside from like KC that I had. Unfortunately, I was only like it was like released where it was only in Korean, so I kind of like only was relying on watching YouTube videos where somebody kind of like translated it into English. So I was kind of glad that I had like one of these episodes. Although I didn't finish Danganronpa Another, so I have to kind of like catch up on that. So I'm sorry for the people who have kind of like watched through it all or played through it all. I still have to do that. But yeah, kind of related to this, it's another question from Ashikins, related to our voice actors here. Would you be willing to voice for more fangans if you were offered? Brooke, why don't you start first?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, with, we all have our own lives, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, I know for me, if I were to be offered a role in a fangan,
Mm.
while it is like appreciated, it's like, oh, that's really nice. And seeing that you have to try out for it and everything, it's much better if you have a person that will be there to be able to be involved with the project and really be able to put their time into it. So I know for me, I would not be able to at this
Right.
moment, and probably not for a while. So, yeah,
I mean,
unfortunately,
honestly,
I think I might be on the sideline.
yeah. I mean, honestly, it would also kind of depends on many other factors, like if the characters fit with the voice actor and whether or not it's actually something that you have time for. So it's totally understandable. I mean, you guys know the best in terms of like if you can feel in the specific role or not. So kind of obviously makes sense. But yes, no. Are you kind of like in a similar boat, or what do you think about offering
For me,
to different
it's
fangans? Sorry.
yeah, for me it's both a yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I would say yes depending on who is asking me. If it looks really professional, like if it was someone having a project that looks the quality that Eden's Garden is, I would be like, say no more. I'm in. But unfortunately, fan projects are often looked down upon if you want to become a professional voice actor. It's the reason how I broke through, so I have a lot of love for it, but a lot of clients do not like it. Like fan dubs, fan projects, they're kind of like, So I would say it's better to focus on original projects and stuff that can maybe get you paid, because, getting paid is always good. But if it's something that looks really good and you think it has a lot of potential and you love it, then why not? Yeah.
Right. And you do make a good point here, like in terms of like fan projects in general. And I think it's also a bit of the same, like in general, like outside of voice acting, fan games are not considered to be games in terms of like in the normal games industry, you work with studios and stuff like that. And it's not because it's like made for free. It's more that upon the standards, it's very, very complex, and many people don't realize in terms of like how much effort and work is going into that, and they only see, I don't know, a specific point of picture of a visual novel game coming out. And it's coming down to a trend where like a lot of people think nowadays it's like, well, they're actually talented people who work behind that game just to get like a basic experience. And I think even to you, Starlight and Fire, I kind of like got into a situation where if you want to go in a more professional route, most of the positions that you guys want to do are like people who want to have like 3 years of experience for a junior role, and you're like asking yourself, okay, how the hell do I get that kind of like experience? And like fan projects are like one of the first things that you can do. So yeah, and a big advocator I wanted to do is like also making sure that fan games are not, it's just not a medium of showing talented people like you guys, that you have the willingness and passion to do these kinds of like things, whether or not they're kind of like paid or not, just to demonstrate your skills. And I'm very fortunate to have meet you all guys to make sure that we make something kind of like amazing with our shared passion for this Danganronpa trope, or the premise that we are making here. And yeah, just wanted to let everyone who's listening in kind of like know that, because at the end of the day, developing a game, whether you want to make it for free or not, is very hard. And you have so many things that you have to watch out for, especially like, as you can see, like when it comes down to voice acting or for writing a specific scenario, how many things you have to watch out for to make sure that no plot holes exist, or that the lines in terms of timing and delivery are perfect. All of that, like behind the scenes, you don't really get to see it, because as a player you only will see the product. And yeah, ranting aside, let's continue on with the next questions. And those are both from Bot Pichu and Fernan. And they kind of like say, do you guys have any blooper voice lines that got in? And how many kind of like bloopers in general did you had during your recording session, if you can recall any?
There was one that snuck behind me, and I answered it in the chat, but for the audio listeners. So Cassidy has a line that says question, but then there was a variant of it where she says it and then says it ... question mark, and that slipped behind me, and I didn't realize it until I was listening to it. There was also a internal snafu with one of the voice lines. During the trial, there were 2 lines that started with Yo Bud from Jet, but the second instance of that one is him saying, "Yo Bud, you seem a little stressed." But the first time it played, Justin knows exactly what I'm talking about. The first time it was played, it was accidentally when it was the first time. So basically, the line was like, it was like, "Yo Bud, you all right?" And then it was like nervous. No, it was like energetic, something like that. But then the actual voice on that played was, "Yo, bud, you seem a little pressed." And Justin, Sweden, and Juve got on my case for it, and it was very funny. But those are the only 2 off the top of my head that managed to get in the game. But there is dozens of other lines that we have bloopers for, but I don't know if I have them saved. I don't know if the other voice actors
like
have.
Wasn't the burping jet sound a blooper that?
There was a
I hate that
burping sound?
so much.
I think there was. I think there is a
Yeah.
burping noise that Stan just pulled out, and I was like,
And
"Well,
you
I
got put it in
mean,
the game.
yeah, it's in there. It's in there somewhere. I don't know how. If it isn't, it might be in the next chapter. I'm not sure."
It was in the prologue star.
Was it?
I
Oh,
can't-
I hated
recall.
it. I hate Sausage for that. Like,
Justin just confirmed there was a burping sound in the game that he edited. Thank you, Justin, but you didn't have to do that, man.
Interesting. I mean, yeah. How about you guys, Brooke? Any bloopers that you had during your recording session? that you can at least
Snow, do you wanna answer
recall?
this one first?
Or Snow, yeah, go ahead.
I had no blooper. The thing is, like, if I make a blooper, I'm the type to either remove it immediately or I just don't make them. Like, I practiced my speech a lot over the years, and it's very rare for me to stumble over my words, which good. I do wish I was more the type to save the times where I
Right.
made a mistake, because it's funny.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't really do that. I'm a perfectionist.
And how about you, Brooke? Is it similar to
I
you? Or
don't really recall any bloopers I had on my end either. The only thing I remember was when I exported my lines for review, and one of the writers was reviewing them, and they told me there's like a static that plays at the end of each line. And internally, I was freaking out because I did not hear that when I went to go back and listen to them. So it was just like profusely apologizing on mine, like, I'm so sorry that happened. I don't know what
Oh,
happened.
no.
I'll be sure to fix it.
I could interject. I remember this. It was because Discord, for some reason, likes to add artifacts to the end of the audio files. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Discord. It was Audacity. So I was listening to the lines to Audacity. For some reason, Audacity adds artifacts and static to the end of files, and it made me very worried that they got corrupted. But as soon as you export it as the file scheme that we had for it, it went away. So Audacity just does that. That was a fun time.
Interesting.
That was a very fun time.
I actually have something to add.
Go ahead.
Regarding Brooke, actually.
Actually,
Because
Oh,
yeah,
no.
because I remember you were struggling on some of the lines, and we sat
Yeah.
together, and I would like bug you about the way you enunciated some words.
yeah, wait, which ones were they?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
It was like it was one of the lines that was about where she's like we don't have any information. Because you
I
kept being like,
remember
we don't have any of the information, and I was like, no, we don't have. And like you
yeah,
kept,
it was like a certain
and you kept messing
emphasis
up. I
on
was
the
like,
words.
Rock.
It was so repetitive, and I was like, I'm
Yeah.
trying.
But we got it in the end, so yeah,
That's good.
that was really fun.
That's good
though.
to hear. I mean, yeah, I can
Yeah.
totally relate with the blooper stuff. I completely forgot to, like, whenever I do like a mistake, I immediately delete it. So yeah, that's just basically I'm like one of that person that gets a bit on the nerve, like when I see myself being recorded. Whenever it comes down, or even when I'm like in meetings and stuff like that, and I have to put on my camera, it's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I actually see myself now. So it's always like a unique kind of like experience when it comes down to yourself, because you think it's like, I can do this all in one try, and then you actually try it, and then oh no, you're on take 15 and you cannot say a proper sentence completely. So yeah, going by that, let's move on to the next question. So, which is from the Humbug, and it's basically a very nice question. He's asking, what got you guys into writing slash voice acting? Who would like to start first?
Wait, no, I don't want to go first. Never mind.
I can go.
Go ahead.
So I'll make it very quick because me and writing have a very long history. TLDR, I started writing little terrible fanfics when I was 11, 12. It was Kingdom Hearts fanfiction, by the way, for anyone who cares. But from then on, I would write when I had free time. And then I made my own universe, and that gave me a lot of stuff to like work on. And then I decided from high school onward that I wanted to be a writer professionally. So I went to college to get an English degree. and I got my degree with honors, humble brag. And then now this project is my main creative outlet at the moment, and I do not regret a single second of it.
And you,
I have
so
a
do you?
very
Yeah.
different experience because I've
Okay.
been writing since I think I was 5, and that led to me writing a lot of like fan fiction. Like I think later on I wrote like a 40-page FNAF AU where it's like my own animatronics and shit. And oh my god, I cursed. I'm so sorry. Um, I've just been writing a lot, you know. Like ever since I like could write, I was writing, and I always like made fan projects, which is funny because now I'm in a fan project. And it's like whoa, I honestly don't write that much. Like wait, no, sorry. I don't write that much. When I was younger, I didn't write that much original projects. It was mostly like me taking a spin at existing material. But I think now, as I've gotten older, I've more expanded my horizons, so I'm less limited to like existing characters and whatnot. But yeah, I was like a writing toddler. Like I was always with my pen, always with my paper and writing a lot. So
Yeah, and I think there's nothing to be ashamed about. Like everybody started like doing something in their childhood, like whether it's drawing or writing or something like that. If it's like a consistency that you did in the past, you get more refined and experienced to that. So big ups for continuing the writing trend and becoming one of the main writers for Project Eden's Garden.
yeah.
Yeah, moving on to our voice actors. How did you start your voice acting career, I guess, in sense? Or how do you get into voice acting, so to speak?
With voice acting, I know on my end, I expressed interest for it during the start of the pandemic, and I had found like an old mic in my closet, and I created my CCC account, and that's when it really took off. Um, I didn't really do any fan projects. There were a lot of original projects in CC at that time, so I was just throwing my auditions to whatever project I could find. And then later on I would find Twitter and would begin finding more casting calls there, and then rosters, and then all other recommendations and everything else. I remember my first project that I got cast for, and I remember being really excited. If I believe it correctly, it was Experiment Isolation. And it's a murder mystery game. As you can see, I really love the murder mystery game types. Very intriguing, very fun, silly characters having to find out who killed who. But yeah, and then it really just took off from there, just continuing to audition and seeing what would come back. And with that, just learning and continuing to improve upon my acting and learning about acting choices and different, methods. And yeah, it's really cool. Voice acting is very cool.
And if I may ask, like throughout your like entire career, how many auditions did you do? You have like a estimate of
That's
how
a
many you
good
got?
question. I have an audition counter, and unfortunately for
Oh,
this year, it's been pretty slow. But I remember last year I submitted around maybe, what, 300 maybe?
oh boy!
Whoa!
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 Maybe.
Wait, hey,
But yeah,
yeah, props up for having 300 submissions. That's a lot. Oh, damn. But yeah, Snow, what about you?
Yeah, so not many people know this, but I'm a high school dropout. I didn't have the best school experience, and I had a burnout and meltdown. And, sitting at home was really tough on me. And I needed something to do in the massive amount of free time I suddenly had. And finding voice acting was such it literally it quite literally saved me. It was such a nice thing to be able to be creative finally, because in school I would be forced to do stuff like baking or like building stuff. It was not my thing at all. I wanted to do something creative. And just, I was so happy when voice acting finally got on my path, because it was just like, this is what I've always been like meant to do. This is what I've always meant to do.
And if I may ask as well to you, how many auditions did you have in terms of like your entire voice acting career?
I don't actually audition much because I am a, like, my autism and ADHD, it's tough on me a lot of times. It will give me a lot of self-hatred. It will give me a lot of anxiety.
Right.
And I try to avoid auditioning as much as possible unless I am really, really interested in it. But oftentimes it does get the better of me, and I just don't end up auditioning at all.
I mean, suffice it to say, huge respect for actually still pushing through and submitting your audition for Diana, because obviously you wouldn't be here with all of that, and huge respect for pushing all of the, let's say, boundaries to get to that point. I mean, I haven't told you that, probably to all of our VAs enough, but you guys are so talented, and I'm very, very appreciative for doing the entire work, and I'm very glad to have met such a talented and passionate team. And I would just like to reiterate what Juve said last week. It's very rare to see kind of like projects like these, where everybody has like a specific vision of the project and wanted it to succeed it. And it just goes to shows in every different department on what they want to do. So yeah, props up to you, and thank you so much, as well as for your continued support. Yeah, so let's continue off with some next questions. This one is again from Fern. Basically, how long does it take to record lines for each character? Like just a rough estimate for each character.
It depends on circumstance. It is just circumstantial. For some people, they can get in the booth right away, record all their lines, and we can go through them and get them done in like a weekend. But a majority of our voice actors have time and a life that they need to go dedicate to. So a lot of them were weeks, days, months of receiving and recording or being able to do a live direction session. But we expect this. We encourage this behavior because people have lives, and people have did I cut out there for a second? I think I did. People have lives, people have interests outside of this project specifically, and it would be a very hard ask to say, hey, this project that you're all unpaid for, can you just do all this and that and that and that? Like, that would be such a hard ask, like too high. So
right, it's understandable, and obviously comes down to also the amount of like lines that each of the specific character has. I mean, for someone like the Damon, for example, who is probably suffering the most in terms of like amount of lines they have to speak, but yeah, kind of like makes sense in that case. Yeah. Going on with the next question, and it's another general question to you all, and it's what was the most difficult part to in chapter 0 in the prologue? If you can remember a specific segment that was particular challenging to do. Would you
like in terms of writing or voice acting?
Generally,
Both.
Mm.
I can answer this question, but can I do it for chapter 1? Because like, there's a specific thing I want to talk about.
Let's not talk about that. I'm sorry for everyone, but I mean, is there something similar perhaps in the prologue?
I'm talking about FTEs.
Okay.
Because that's definitely the hardest part writing, like all around. But
think fire cut out. Uh-oh.
Huh?
Oh,
No,
you
no,
didn't
no.
cut out. I
I
thought
think
you did.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Um,
Kind of makes sense. But yeah, Starlight, go ahead.
The hardest part for the prologue was trying to understand the formatting,
Mm.
honestly, because if there are people in the audience and listeners who understand how a typical movie script or a video game script goes, it's nowhere near like a movie script at all. It's not even close. So trying to like basically unlearn a typical script format and relearning a new one just for this project was a really big hurdle to get over. But once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. So it's just a big leap to get into. But in terms of the actual content, going 17, 18 different characters is hard. It's so hard, you guys.
I mean, yeah. It's very unusual to have that many characters, with with making them all of them very unique, very challenging, especially for like the prologue, where you have to introduce everyone, and it's going to take a while for that to make that perfect. But yeah, moving on to our voice actors, what was your hardest part in your contribution for the prologue, if you can remember any?
I remember with Snow mentioning earlier certain enunciation or importance that I put on certain words, as at the time I had a habit of finding one certain word and putting unnecessary emphasis on it for whatever reason. I'm not sure why I did that, but yeah, I did it for whatever reason. But that and also trying to return things in a timely manner, but
Mm,
as we also previously mentioned, we all have lives. And
right.
unfortunately, my life was, yeah, turning in things on time. No. Turning in things in a timely manner. No.
I mean, it's to be expected in a fan project, and I think
Yeah.
nobody's perfect in that aspect. I mean, there's always going to be something challenging going on in that sense. So, yeah. What about you, Snow?
Yeah, so I would say for me, the most difficult thing was how I was treating myself. Like I said, I started with a lot of self hatred, and I had a habit of being like, I don't know if that was good enough. I don't know. Am I really the right person for this character? And like, thanks to just like the support, I was able to see and understand like, oh, okay, this is
Mm.
why this is why. But I've definitely gotten a lot better at just like taking care of myself and not seeing myself in such a bad light. So that's good.
I mean, yeah, makes perfectly sense. All right.
hmm But
Next, so
I
go
didn't
ahead.
have any difficulties. But I didn't
Mm.
have any difficulties regarding anything else. Like the team made it so easy for us to get used to everything and to record. So that was really nice. I'm very thankful that we have so many professional people helping us out. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, moving on to the next question. It's just a quick question. It's from the user someone, and they asked, "What's everyone's favorite color?"
Red and cyan.
Red and cyan. Oh, okay. What about
Teal.
seal?
Teal's also a great
Teal.
color.
Okay. What about you, Snow?
Turquoise.
Hmm.
uh, and it actually has a funny story because when my mom was pregnant with me, her favorite color was turquoise. She needed to get everything turquoise, every like accessory, uh, like every turquoise thing she could find. Um, she had to have, and I think that's really fun. But I also
Ah,
love aqua
interesting.
blue. Any type of blue. Mwah.
And what about you, Brooke?
lavender purple and sage green.
Oh my
Those
god.
are my favorite colors.
So
Very
based.
Winona-esque, as
Yeah.
you say.
I think as for my case, my favorite color is aquamarine blue, because I think it's the very first color I had in like this, like in in school when you get these like sets of colors, and I got this one. The very first one was this aquamarine blue, and I don't know, I loved it, and yeah, it's my favorite color since then. Yeah, I'm unfortunately I'm not as interesting as Snow, but yeah, this is this is the only thing in terms of like my favorite color context. But yeah. Another interesting question, which is coming from Kay, and they basically ask, has the script slash voice lines or any sort of similar stuff been changed in the script, when if at all? If so, why were they changed?
Prologue wise,
For the prologue, yeah.
I think like one intro was rewritten. Oh my god, rewritten. Oh my god, that's it though. I don't think anything else was really like overhauled or changed, or other than like minor edits, of course. But like other than that, like no overhauls really.
Oh, interesting. Because it was already kind of like clear what the vision of the prologue already was. So kind of like built all together. Do I understand
Yeah.
that correct? I see.
My answer is more generalized. We do most of the edits boil down to just grammar and spelling, because no matter how many people you have working on a script at any given time, there will still be like bugs that fall through the cracks. So a lot of the edits are just grammar, stuff like that. But in terms of like grander stuff, I think Fired answered it pretty well.
Yeah. Also, fun fact: the CCC was released after we wrote the prologue, so that means like all the lines that never got to be in the prologue didn't exist in the first place. We wrote them specifically for the CCC. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember. And one thing I also want to add, and it's like another shout out to Soze. It's basically we had the one thing I can remember in terms of like what had been changed were some visual elements that were kind of like when it came down to describing the specific rooms, and we had there was a specific instance with the dorm room hallway where the texture was supposed to be a bit ragged. I think so, or different. I don't quite remember what the actual details of the description was, but that has been changed, and yeah, I'm very glad that it did. Mainly because I think we were at the limits in terms of like what we had back then. So yeah, that's the only thing I can remember in that context. But yeah, other than that, I think it was pretty smoothly in terms of like scripts, because there were very few edits and it was quite clear in terms of like the flow of the entire script. Yeah, so next question is another question for the writers. I'm sorry, Snow and Brooke. There's so many writer questions today.
They can sit here and look pretty. That is a good thing to do.
So true. And it's another question from Fern. And their question is, what character do you find the hardest / easiest to write? And yeah, Fire, why didn't you want to start first?
Okay. Hardest. Okay, that's a that's a tough one. I think either Cassidy or Winona. Cassidy's jokes are very hard to nail because you have to make it so they're like corny, but not too corny that they're actually cringe. And like finding that middle balance is very hard. Plus, you have to know like all these like trivial references, and like throwing them in there is a task in itself. And Winona's very hard to nail because she's like snarky, but also very composed and serious. And finding that middle ground where she doesn't seem like too sassy, it can be difficult. But we find it eventually. So. And easiest is definitely Toshiko. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I could agree with Toshiko as well. Toshiko is not extremely difficult. Difficult in the sense that everything she has to say is flowery, and you can only say so much before it just sounds like you're an Ouroboros eating yourself. My easiest. So that's my hardest character. So that's my hardest character. My easiest character, surprisingly, Wolfgang and Jean. Like, I find it very easy to write like this prim and proper individual, and according to Saze a long time ago, apparently I could write really good Jean. So I'll take that and put it on my cap. But those are my two easy characters, and Toshiko is so hard to write for me.
I guess, yeah, makes sense. I was kind of surprised because I thought like Tozu or Eva are like hard kind of like characters to write, mainly because
No,
of their
Eva is
unique
so easy. Oh
nature
my
of
god.
that. But yeah,
Eva is incredibly easy.
kind of like makes sense in terms of, because I don't know, probably it's because of a lack of experience, but I wouldn't really know what to write in terms of like an ultimate liar, I guess.
And Tozu
yeah.
is also easy to write to a lesser extent because a lot of the things you can just have him say is just complete hogwash. As long as you can get the point across, you can make just the most random things because he's Tozu. He's funny little guy, you know?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the questions. One quick question, which is coming from Bot Pichu. I know we answered this a few times before, but I guess there's no harm right now currently. And it's basically, do you guys plan to release chapters one by one or develop the entire thing and then release it? Let me just quickly announce that here that we are doing episodic releases, which means we're going to release the game by chapters. And we did that the first time basically with releasing the prologue chapter, and this is basically the same aim for our upcoming chapters. So we'll try our best to release them basically as best as possible we can, obviously. And it might take some more time, it might take some less time, but keep in mind we want to kind of like envision you guys the best possible experience for this game. So please be patient when we do inevitably release it, and obviously you guys it will be known when the day finally comes where you guys can get to play it. I guess let me just ask this real quick because I think it kind of goes in the same with you. Is what was your kind of like hardest thing as like for the character to voice act? If there was a specific section where you had to kind of properly think about it, if at all, of course. Was there like a specific section?
Anything, I feel like the prologue for me was really a way to really align myself with Winona's character and really see how I was going to go about acting as her. Seeing it was like my first time digesting her lines, her way of speech, her mannerisms, etc. It was really just getting to know her while I voiced the lines, while also making sure that this could be a blueprint for later down the road of how to further act as her.
What about you, Snow?
Yeah, for me, I mentioned this briefly, but I did get told a lot to keep my voice more natural, because there were lines such as like, "Don't be mean, don't be like that," and I would kind of go like, "Don't be like that, silly," and I immediately got told like, "Nah, like you need to add more oomph to it." And then if you listen back now, like the "don't be like that" is kind of growly, like don't be like that. Like it's like these like fun little things that make a line so unique, because there are so many ways to deliver a line, different enunciation, different emotion. Like there's so much you can do, so it's fun to kind of try a few takes and experiment. And then at one point both you and whoever is directing you will be like, "Oh my god, that's the one. That one sounds so fun." Like, even though it's unique and something you don't usually hear, it just like matches. It's so fun, and yeah, just go wild. Honestly, it's really fun.
Thank you very much. And unfortunately, we are out of time for the questions. So thank you everyone who kind of like submitted questions. If we still have some time, we can try to answer these off the recording as best as we possibly can. But kind of like, let's end it with a final question towards everyone. That's what I also like asked last week, and it's basically what is your opinion about the future of Project Eden's Garden? What do you think about this, and where do you think it will land on? Let's start off with Brooke first, and then we go from right to left.
Okay. Overall, I'm really excited to see the development of this project as the years go on. I mean, it's something I admired for a long time, and getting to be a part of it is really awesome opportunity to have. And overall, I mean, I know that the story will have a powerful meaning towards the end, and once we finally end with it, you'll be left with an impactful message. And I'm hoping that by the time we arrive at that point, I'll still be here to see it.
I mean, yeah, makes perfectly sense. How about you, Snow?
I have a lot of faith in this project because we have such a good, close team. Like, we've all gotten busier, so we don't hang out as much as we used to. But whenever we get the chance to, like, meeting back up with everyone and just like, you know, catching up, it's so nice. And to really have that like personal connection with the team makes it so much easier to work together with everyone. And that's why I have such a strong belief that we'll do great.
Sounds amazing.
And I love the team.
I mean,
Fire, you want to go next?
No, save me for last.
Woogie. So are you going to say something, Shade?
I mean, yeah, obviously, it's the same as I said last week. I think the project is in very good hands in terms of like managing and also in development. Since throughout the years, I have seen nothing but overly joy, motivation, and the biggest support we have ever received from our community. And going from that standpoint on, once we inevitably will release Chapter 1 in the future, I think we have like the biggest thing done in terms of like the bare bones of what we want to show, and then kind of like going popping off with our future chapters following in the future. And kind of like enclosing that with our community is, I think, the best kind of like thing how you would like to start off your project. Especially since it's free for everyone to play, and I can't wait to see how many people will follow us in the road until we reach the final chapter of the game.
Okay, I have an answer. Thanks for all of the mental prep time. Truthfully, I cannot say for certain what I think is the trajectory, because there are so many different values. There are so many different like things at work, and that could affect everything. But there's two likely outcomes in my head right now. The one is where we continue to release these episodic releases in a good, consistent order, and the popularity just goes and goes and goes higher and higher and higher, and it gets more and more popular, and we get more notoriety. And hopefully by the end, we all can use this as a way to breach into the professional gaming industry, like game development industry, or whatever field we want to be in, and just go all in on it. But the second one, the funnier one, is we release the first chapter and everything explodes, and all of a sudden we are the hottest thing in the market, and it would be very, very funny if we just ended up getting much more of a wider response with the next release. But it'll probably just be more of a steep climb up, so to speak.
Right. And last but not least, Fire, who's actually on fire probably with the amount of responses.
My answer is pretty simple. It's one word. It's yaoi. That's what that. Thank you for listening, everyone. It's yaoi.
God bless.
And with that, I would like to close off this episode. As I mentioned many times already, thank you guys and thank you everyone so much for listening throughout the past 2 hours. It has been an honor to talk with you, each and one of you, and asking these questions and basically interacting with you also as a community. And with that being said, thank you so much, guys, for your continued support. And bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.